there were a lot of people who were asking how I wire my potentiometers and what potentiometers do I use and what capacitor values or capacitor types should they use in their Les Paul, whatever, Stratocaster, homemade guitar. In most guitars that I use, by the way, the link is below, check them out, they're called duotone guitars. I start from the same wiring on all of them, be it a Les Paul, be it humbucker, or whatever, single coils, split, triple coils. I start with the same wiring, and from there I choose the capacitor value if necessary again, but most of them have a very standard wiring. In most mass-produced guitars you will find potentiometers like this. These are CTS. Some use 250K, some use 500. Usually humbuckers go with the 500 and the single coils go with 250. Sometimes on some guitars single coils use 1 mega ohm like on Jazzmasters, but that's a different story. That's the rule of thumb. I find these CTS potentiometers not quality enough. They're not good for something special. So most shops, if you take a closer look, most shops that sell electronics will sell you CDS and the CDS premium. What that premium actually is, they take CDS production and they check the values, and they sell you only the values that are exact. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that actually means that the regular CTS are all wrong. They're not precise values because all the precise values have been labeled premium. But besides being not accurate, I find the CTS is simply lacking features for the price. What I use is this. Probably I should indulge a bit more into this because many of you haven't seen those kind of potentiometers. These are called Borns Premium 95. I think that's the name. In any case, I will give you the link below. These ones are sealed. They have a carbon fiber outer housing, and they have, I think they have oil. They're oil filled inside, so they do not corrode. They have no air inside them, and they are basically, they last forever. They can be used in any weather conditions, as much as you want. They will last. These are D-taper. What that means is they are logarithmic, and they are special kind of logarithmic that you would describe that as an instant Jeff Beck. You can play volume swells like Jeff Beck much easier with these. And they're very exact. If they say 250, you can be sure they're spot on. 250, that's it. I use these for volume. They are also very easy to turn. The shaft moves freely as opposed to the CTS. For the tone I use also Borns, but these ones are called no load, and these are linear. The no load feature can be seen here. When they are maxed out at 10, you can feel a little click as the potentiometer goes into this place. So when they are maxed out, they are bypassed. They are excluded from the chain. You no longer have the potentiometer in the wiring when they are on 10. And because of this, I always use for any kind of pickup, for any kind of guitar, I always use 250 for the tone, because this is more than what you need. Uh, with conventional type of potentiometers like the CDS I just shown, if you use 500 plus 500, they will be actually darker than those two, and both are 250. But when this is maxed out, and you also have 10 on the volume, so you only have 250k of load as opposed to 500 plus 500, and they are brighter than two 500k potentiometers. That's why I only use 250s no matter what, on Les Pauls, on Strats, on Jazz Masters, on pretty much anything. So capacitors wise, I use these. I am lucky enough to get a new old stock Soviet I think somewhere 1983, built in January, K40Y9, and I have a lot of these. These are paper in oil capacitors, much like Sprague, much like Sprague, I think is the name, how they're pronounced, much like Bumblebee, much like the old stuff that everybody loves. These act very delicately with your tone, so I only use, in most cases I start with 0.01, which is the smallest value for these, I think. And only if necessary I choose a higher value, because these cut off the frequencies in a different way than the ceramic discs, than the polypropylene. These are very different kind of tone controls on your guitar. And right here I have a Jagger plate, tone plate, wired. So I really use, and by the way, I forgot to mention that with the Borns you also have this very nice feature that the volume, as I said, rolls easily while the tone is super stiff. You can see that I literally cannot move it while the volume rolls freely. This is a very nice feature, because you don't want to accidentally change the setting of your tone. And I strongly encourage you to try these, especially if you are a heavy user of the tone controls. And trust me, with these you will. So this is the wiring. Just as I said, no load, 250k linear tone, and 250k logarithmic volume. That's it. In most cases, this kind of wiring does wonders. Only on very select guitars where you really have to indulge in trying different values for the capacitor, different values and types. Sometimes I have to go with a logarithmic tone control, but in very few instances. This is supposed to be some sort of very specific character of guitar's tone that needs this. Why I also like the linear control on the tone is because you have such a huge precision in the amount of you have very good precision on the amount of that very high end cut. They will roll off up to maybe 2, maybe 3, something in that distance, and you will not hear that wow effect within that range. But in the mix, in the actual sound, that's the frequencies that you really want to cut within that range, and you can select them quite precisely, as opposed to using a logarithmic where you get and then you have all that muddiness in 95% of the signal, which is completely useless. With these kind of capacitors, you can roll off to zero and get a very usable tone, much like Clapton's, what did he call it, woman tone or something like that. So basically, you will need to learn your guitar again when you try these, because the tone controls, you will find out that on your Japanese or American made guitars, even on some boutique made guitars, the tone controls are in fact not working. They're not working properly, not usable enough, especially if you don't use paper and oil capacitors, or at least orange drops. So that would be it for the explanation of the tone and volume potentiometers that I use. I'm gonna shoot a separate video showing you examples of how that actually works in a musical context. But on the workbench, that would be it.